Everybody, my name is Irfa Hirani. I'm an Assistant Director of Admission here at Agnes Scott College, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. We're going to talk a little bit about how to navigate your college essay, and I have one of our resident student experts here with me. Laura, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yes. Hi, I'm Laura. I am a senior at Agnes, a psychology major and a public health minor. And I am from the tiny town of Advance, North Carolina. And I'm here mainly because I am a tutor at our Center for Writing and Speaking.
Awesome, Laura. Thank you for that introduction. So you might be wondering what the Center for Writing and Speaking is, what makes Laura an expert. Well, we'll help explain a little bit of that to you. So Laura, do you want to share with us a little bit about the Center for Writing and Speaking and your role?
Yes, definitely. I think this is like our mission statement or our description or something that's on this slide. But basically, at the Center for Writing and Speaking, we, I think, are the largest tutoring organization on campus. We have about 40 tutors this year who are sophomores, juniors, and seniors from a variety of different majors. And we are all trained to tutor students in anything related to writing and speaking in any subject. So we can help with the brainstorming process, outlining all the way to final revisions and final touch-ups before submission. I think it's a really cool service that Agnes Scott has because all of the appointments are included in tuition, so students are welcome to come as much as they want. We're open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., so you can pretty much always find some time that works for your schedule to meet with us. And yeah, I've been a tutor. This is my third year. And so I've learned a lot about just best practices, I guess, for writing and speaking. So hopefully that will be able to help you guys when you're working on all of these essays that you have coming up.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. That was a great segue into us kind of jumping right in. So we're going to talk a little bit about why your college essay matters, what the college prompts look like on the Common App, and we'll also go through some exercises that hopefully get you started on your college essay process. Why does your college essay matter? So why is there this focus on making sure that your college essay is super unique and is really well done? So this varies, of course, institution by institution, but I want to share a little bit about why it matters at Agnes Scott. So we do use the Common Application, which hopefully you're familiar with. So what this essay allows you to do is it allows the admission committee to hear your voice and get to know you from your own perspective. So of course, the Common App has demographic information. It has, your transcripts. It has information about your classes. But this is one of the few spaces where you're really able to share information about yourself that might not be included in other parts of your application. The essay at Agnes Scott also allows us to understand how you'll fit on our college campus. So you might be sharing some of your passions, some of your interests, and it really helps us understand how you spend some of your time, and then also academically how you will fit onto our college campus. Speaking of that preparedness piece, a little bit of a background on how we evaluate the essay. So how do we consider the essay in the admission process? So again, varies institution by institution, but at Agnes Scott, we look for content versus grammar. So you don't necessarily have to be an English major. And fun plug, we have 34 different majors to choose from. So if you want to talk about that at the end, I'm happy to do so. What we really want to see is that you are prepared for your first year English class, so that your essay stands up to what you can expect out of your first year English course. So ensuring that your writing skills are on par to be successful in your first year coursework at Agnes Scott. We also want to see that you are storytelling. So we're not really looking for lab reports or anything as a part of your essay. Like I mentioned earlier, we want to learn more about you, want to hear your voice, and the essay also shows us how you storytell. So now that you have a little bit of information about what we look at specifically to Agnes Scott, let's walk through the actual Common Application. So some of you might have already started on your Common Application, which is really exciting, and some of you might be getting started in the next few weeks. So sharing a little bit about the Common App breakdown, there are 4 major sections. So first is the personal information, and this is the common part of Common App. This is shared with all of the colleges on your list. Then you have your academics and your activities and honors. So this is where you share information about the coursework you're taking, how you spend time outside of the classroom. And again, this is shared with all of the different colleges that you apply to via the Common App. The Common App essay, which we'll spend the bulk of our time exploring today, also will be shared with all of the colleges on your list. And then last but not least, there are supplements which might be specific to each college. So at Agnes Scott, there are some additional short answer supplements that also help us get a better understanding of you as the applicant. So we'll kind of dive into the Common App essay. Every year, the Common App comes up with different prompts, and I want to spend some time sharing with you what those prompts are, and then also maybe sharing with you a little bit about what we see at Agnes Scott and how you might be able to make your essay stronger if you are going to choose that prompt for your Common App essay. So we'll start with the first Common App prompt. So some students have a background, identity, or interest or talent that's meaningful to them, and they will pursue this prompt because they're able to share their story about their passion for this particular talent or interest. This is really exciting. This is a prompt that a lot of students love because, especially during the pandemic, they might have picked up a new skill. They might have started a small business, which is really great. And this can be a really awesome prompt for students. How to make this stronger is to really kind of tie it also to your future. So it's really exciting that you love to paint. I love that. I love hearing about how you're spending time painting and how you found the passion for that in the pandemic. A great way to make that essay stronger, though, is to tell us about how you carry that into your future. Does it tie to your goals? Is it something that helped you realize a passion for a secondary thing? Is it something that helped you bond with another person that also shared that similar passion? So just taking it one step further and specifying it particularly to you and not just the act of that talent or passion. Another prompt is about learning lessons. So when facing obstacles and kind of recounting that challenge, that setback, or that failure. And that's another great prompt that a lot of students love to use. What comes to mind for this particular prompt tends to be sports essays, which again can be really great. But I want to share that we do see a lot of essays about students involved in X sport where they went to the X national championship and they either won or lost or got injured. And you know, we love hearing kind of your life experiences that you've had, which is great. But again, taking it a step further, not just recounting that experience in your essay, but talking about how you really learned something from it that you're going to utilize in your future. So how did that help you discover something else about you? How are you using that life lesson in your future or with your family members? How do you take that kind of one step forward and not just recount that experience that you've had? So the third prompt on the Common App is about reflecting on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. So again, we see a lot of essays around this that tend to be around kind of crisis of faith or how they were able to recover from it with the help of family or with the help of faith or religion, which again is great. So we love that storytelling aspect. But I think, again, taking it one step further and maybe talking about how that experience set a goal for you, whether that's an academic goal, whether that was a personal goal. How did you really change and adapt from this experience? Something that helped you through this experience logically, more so than just kind of, the faith or the perseverance of it. How exactly did you persevere, and what are those skills that you're going to utilize as you move forward in your life? So the theme, hopefully, that you're sensing here is to make it specific to you and expand it past just your experience that you had, and really carry it, reflect on yourself and carry it into how you might use it to better yourself, to set future goals, etc. So again, this is a similar prompt to prompt 3 in some ways. So it's asking you to reflect on something that has made you happy or thankful, or has affected you when it comes to gratitude or motivation. This is, again, a really great prompt. So similarly, I think the pandemic allowed a lot of students to kind of reflect on their experiences. And through these tough times, it might be either really easy or really hard for you to kind of think about what's made you happy or thankful. So again, not just storytelling, not just keeping it vague about, for example, being able to spend time with your family at home, but also maybe thinking through, how did this thing that brought you joy, brought you happiness, how are you going to utilize that when maybe you don't have as much access to it later on in your life? Or how is this gratitude or motivation impacted you to really do well for others in the future, not just in a conceptual way, but in a tangible way? What are you grateful for that now you want to provide to others, and how are you going to go about doing that? I know this seems like a long list of prompts, but there are 7 in total, so bear with me. Moving on to prompt number 5. This one discusses an accomplishment, an event, a realization that has sparked a period of personal growth about yourself. Another really great one, a lot of students might kind of pull this from same thing, so sports or a competition that they've succeeded in, which again is great. So recounting that experience is wonderful, but taking it one step further, and talking about how maybe this also, you use this motivation, this realization, this growth to help others around you as well, not just kind of yourself, but pulling it further than just you. So great ways, again, reminder to make your essay really stand out, is to not just recount your own story, but also see how you can take it beyond yourself and expand it into kind of the larger society. Coming around to our second to last prompt. So this one asks students to describe a topic, an idea, a concept that they find engaging, that in a way that makes them lose all track of time. How does it captivate you? What makes you want to kind of learn more when you're engaging in this activity? So this one, for example, you might write an essay on how you love writing. Yes, we see those a lot. We see essays where students talk about how much they love writing. And while that's awesome, again, we love hearing about that. Maybe find a way to show that, especially if you are looking at writing an essay on how you love writing. Maybe make it a short story that's captivating, instead of just, describing why you lose yourself when you write. Maybe talk about, I read an amazing essay about how a student tied baking to writing, right? Two concepts that maybe don't necessarily go together. But as she was learning how to bake, she would put the ingredients together and she'd be nervous about what that outcome might look like. So the process of it made her nervous. But she tied that to writing, in that now that when she sees a blank piece of paper, she feels more confident in trusting the process. And essentially, she learned through her baking that it does end up being a great final product, and having that trust in yourself. So again, not just telling us about it, showing us about your passion as well. Last but not least, Common App prompt number 7. Some counselors love this prompt, some counselors hate this prompt. And this prompt asks you to share an essay on any topic of your choice. So this is kind of like a blank slate of a prompt. And I think students really get caught upon the piece that says, can be one that you've already written. So I think what this prompt intends to do is to really give you autonomy if one of the other 6 prompts don't speak to you, and there is something important about yourself in your life that you want to share. You can utilize this prompt. However, what students often tend to do is say, hey, I'm really great at my schoolwork. I get good grades. I think that I can totally use one of my English essays or one of my history essays, and I got an A on it. So I think this could be a good college essay. I see how that logic, might be inviting. However, we get a lot of essays where the students will have, their name, the class that they wrote it for, the period, and the header. And that's kind of a big red flag for us that this is an essay that you've written for a different class. So again, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the way that we want you to use this is not to kind of repurpose a high school essay. We want you to use this to creatively think about if there is a different topic not represented in the 6 other prompts that you want to share. So thankfully, we have an expert, like I mentioned, who did use this prompt. So Laura, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, definitely. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my brainstorming process a little bit later. But I will say for now that, I was, when I started working on my Common App essay, I just felt very overwhelmed by all the questions. I felt like I could probably come up with an answer for any of them, but I didn't really feel especially excited about it. And I didn't really feel like I had anything super strong to say about any of the first 6 prompts. And the idea that I kind of kept coming back to was kind of random. It was that I was actually boycotting a restaurant that I felt like was kind of had some unethical practices. And I really wanted to talk about that for some reason. It's something I felt really strongly about. And I really wanted to kind of have that as like an anecdote in my essay. And as I was looking at the other prompts, none of them really fit in with that. So I decided to go ahead and go for the essay number 7, kind of do it yourself kind of thing. And I was definitely pretty nervous about that. As Irfa said, I felt like some admission counselors might not like it, or might it was just felt like a very different choice to me, but I think I was ultimately able to be successful with it, and still feel very proud of my essay and feel really good about it through kind of using that system Irfa said of storytelling, and then also kind of connecting it to something broader about myself. So I started off by talking about this boycott that I was doing and kind of telling a story about it, and then getting into how that kind of related to how I saw myself as kind of a budding activist, how I really wanted to be active in my community and in the world, and how I still had a long way to go with that, but that I hoped coming to, I guess since it was the Common App, I didn't say Agnes Scott, but coming to college in general would help me with working towards that goal, and then kind of tying it back to the initial anecdote at the end. So that's kind of how I did it. I ended up really liking my essay, and I think it kind of worked for me just because I did have something that I felt so passionately about writing about that I chose to do this prompt.
Yeah, so Laura's an expert, and like she said, that's a really awesome way to use this prompt number 7. And also, Laura kind of made a really good point where there are some other essay trends that might not necessarily always be a good fit for your college essay, even though it seems very second nature. So, for example, one of those things is the 5-paragraph format. I know many times this is repeatedly drilled into you during high school to have the five paragraph format. So while this might really work for your high school coursework, understand that the Common App doesn't necessarily have a lot of room. So there is around a 550 word limit, which seems like a lot, but it really isn't. So maybe you're not able to squeeze everything into 5 paragraphs. So what you want to focus on is having that introduction, having that conclusion, and then whether that's 1 paragraph or 2. And if you can get 3, that's perfectly fine. But don't worry so much about that 5-paragraph format as much as kind of anchoring your essay with that introduction and that conclusion. Something else that students love to do is start their essays with "my name is," and just I love that you want to introduce yourself, and know that when counselors are reviewing your application, we've already kind of looked at other parts of your Common App that I talked about earlier, right? So that personal information, your activities, and things like that. So while it might be second nature to start your essay with "my name is," know that we likely already know a good amount of information about you as we are reading your essay. And then something else to mention, life is hard. These past few years have definitely been a struggle. Everyone has gone through a lot, in their lives. And students also tend to have a tendency to talk about really difficult subjects. So a lot of times what's personal to you might be a really deep, dark, or traumatic experience. And if you want to share that, that's perfectly understandable. However, know that us as counselors, we don't want you to re-traumatize yourself when you're writing your college essay. We want you to take care of yourself. So you don't have to feel like you have to talk about these difficult subjects in your Common App essay. If you do feel like that is important to you, particularly at Agnes Scott, there are other ways to connect with your counselor and share some of that information with your counselor. So for example, we do have an optional interview component at Agnes Scott where you can really connect with your admission counselor and have kind of a chat that allows you to get to know each other. But know that we care for you, and we really don't want you to kind of rehash those dark moments in your life if you feel like that's not going to kind of bring you positivity. There are other topics that you can definitely write your essay on, and we'll kind of talk about how to kind of figure out those topics in just a little bit. So now Laura's going to talk a little bit about things we don't see as often, but want to see a little bit more.
Yes, definitely. So the first one, an essay that no one else could write. I think that is super important. Of course, I'm not an admissions counselor, but I've heard this presentation before, and it seems like there are kind of some common themes and common narratives that come up a good amount in reading all of these essays. And so it's really important to think about how to make your essay unique. Like Irfa said, there's nothing wrong with writing about, a big sports game, or writing about your parents as a role model, or any of those kind of more common topics. But it's really important to add specific details and add things that only you could write, just so that your admissions counselors are able to really get to know you through this essay, since this is kind of your opportunity to expand on whatever you want to expand on. So just making sure that you're not using cliches, and that you're explaining your perspective, and really showing kind of who you are through your essay. Additionally, as you know, a writing tutor, one thing that is really important, especially in kind of narrative reflection essays, is strong conclusions. I remember when I was in high school, and even some now, I really struggled with conclusions. I feel like it seems kind of unnatural. You share a whole narrative story, you tell all about yourself, and then being like, okay, bye. Like, it can be kind of difficult, but I remember for me, I actually went to one of my high school English teachers about my conclusion because I was just having such a tough time with wrapping things up nicely, and she really helped me. So I think if you're struggling, definitely consider reaching out to a teacher, or even if you have, you know, friends or siblings or parents or anyone in your community who has some like strong writing background who you trust. I think that could be really helpful as well. At least it was for me. And then finally, the why. So again, kind of going back to an essay no one could write, just making sure that you're explaining why things matter, why they matter to you, what they say about you, what they say about your place in the world. So rather than kind of just explaining a situation and spending your whole essay talking about, you know, the big sports game or your favorite hobby or whatever it may be, really making sure that you get into why that matters and why that should affect, you know, whether you get into this college and kind of how you would see yourself if you did go to whichever colleges you're applying to.
So on that note, we are going to kind of wrap up our presentation by sharing some do's and don'ts with you, and then also helping you kind of work your way through a brainstorming activity. So I highly encourage you, if you would like to have this information at your fingertips, go ahead and take a screenshot or a photo of this chart on the screen, as well as the next couple of slides, because this might be helpful for you as you kind of start working on your essay if you haven't already. So I know that Laura and I both touched on this concept of making your essay kind of something no one else would write. How do you exactly go about doing that? So here's some topics that might have been overused in the past, but how to take those and really elevate them into essays that no one else can write but you. So in the past, during the Common App prompts I mentioned, we see a lot of sports essays or dance or cheer, and how they taught students the value of hard work and things. So one example is we saw an essay about how a student, while playing basketball and collecting statistics for data for their team, it helped them realize that they enjoyed that component a lot. They realized that statistics ended up being fun for them, and they were able to combine both their love for basketball and for statistics, and they were able to utilize that to set future career goals for them, which was really exciting and unique. So you see how kind of a sports essay turned into something that connected into their future goals. Another one is reading and writing being favorite pastimes, which is really great. So I love reading myself, and I really appreciate when I read essays about students that are passionate about reading. But again, kind of reflecting on what students enjoy the most about reading and writing. Is it kind of losing yourself in another world? Is it about the creativity of writing and starting with a blank page? So kind of really reflecting on what is it about reading and writing, and how does it tie to you specifically? Why is it so important to you? How does it absorb you? Another overused topic, learning the importance of giving back during a mission trip, a summer camp, maybe a community service project. Hopefully you're kind of seeing a theme of how these topics directly correlate to Common App prompts. So again, reading an essay that elevates that piece to looking at every interaction the student has with someone experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity completely differently, and then realizing that that made them passionate about solving kind of the overarching problem of affordable housing and what role they want to play in that as they work their way through college and through their future. So again, you see how the topic can tie to themselves and how they want to use that in their future. And Laura touched on this one a little bit as well. And while we love these essays, we love reading about your mom or your parents or someone in your life that has really impacted you very, very deeply. And we know this to be true of many, many of you. So again, not only is how your mom has helped you get where you are today, but for example, an essay on how a student's mom helped them become confident in their Mexican American identity because she utilized those traditions, that culture in her local government as she got involved in there. So there's a way to kind of care about both pieces, both your Mexican American identity and how you bring that into your involvement in your community and your organizations. So hopefully this gave you some examples of how you can still use that topic if you're really passionate about it, but ways to connect that and turn it into an essay that only you could write and no one else could. Another kind of great screenshot or photo to take would be of this slide. So this slide is the actual do's and don'ts, our little tips on essay writing. So like we talked about in the last slide, find a topic that no one else could write about. So find something so specific about yourself that it cannot be related to other people. Not relatable, but it's not identical to someone else's experience. On the flip side of this, don't rehash things that are already on your application, right? So you're going to list your activities, you're going to list your classes that you've taken. So don't let this be kind of a repetition of your resume and how you were involved all throughout high school. Be descriptive when you're telling your story. So do use great language. Do show us your experience and not just tell us. However, don't try to shock your admission counselor, particularly tying this back to what we chatted about sharing kind of deep or traumatic experiences. That's not necessarily the way to stand out if that's going to be more harmful to you than good. So be descriptive and share what you would like, but don't think that the only way to get your admission counselor's attention is by shocking them about some information about yourself. Do share why this topic that you've chosen to write about is important to your admission. So again, kind of looking at students that tie their involvement in their community as one of their identities, push them to come to Agnes Scott because they like some aspect of the institution and think that they can propel that identity forward. That is awesome. We love to kind of see those connection pieces. However, don't forget to answer your full prompt, right? Don't forget to kind of tie it all the way back and just kind of leave it kind of hanging halfway. Laura and I both harped on this. Do proofread, whether that's multiple times yourself, like Laura suggested, maybe that's going to a teacher or a family member. Definitely proofread. And don't forget to identify the goal of your essay. So don't worry about, don't forget to stick to it. So as you're proofreading and realize, hey, the first few paragraphs are great, but I think we might be getting lost towards the end and towards the conclusion. That's okay to get back to it and rewrite it. So that's where proofreading can help as well. So maybe leaving your essay alone for a few days, coming back to it might help you kind of make sure that you're sticking through the goal of your essay kind of throughout all of the paragraphs. And last but not least, do identify 3 things that you want the reader to learn about you through that essay. So that doesn't mean necessarily bullet point facts or anything, but what are 3 things that you want the reader to take away from that essay about you? So we can't say this enough. Don't forget to proofread and use paragraphs. It definitely matters. Do not have block paragraphs. Definitely figure out how to kind of structure your essay where it's really readable for admission counselors. So hopefully some of these essay writing tips, the do's and the don'ts, are helpful as you start working on your. And kind of the last piece that Laura and I will talk through for our presentation today is hopefully helpful to you as you start working on your college essay. So what I would love for you to do is, again, I promise last time I'll say this, go ahead and take a photo or a screenshot of the screen right now, because this will really, really be helpful whether you can't figure out a topic for your essay, or if you have thought about a couple of ideas but you're unsure about how to fit them into one of the Common App prompts. Hopefully this kind of gets you started on kind of figuring out your essay. So what we recommend that you do to start in this process is to make 3 lists. So list one is to make a list of 10 objects that mean a lot to you, whether that's souvenirs, whether that's a gift that was given to you by someone important, whether that's your favorite food. So list 10 objects that mean a lot to you. Once you're done with that, create a second list. This list will be focused around values that you think are important, that you would want a college to share. So what is important to you that you also want to see reflected in your college community? This is important because not only does it help you with your Common App essay, but this might even be helpful overall as you are navigating the college search process and trying to figure out whether an institution is a good fit for you. And the third list will be just kind of 10 general facts about you. So these are kind of great facts that might be easy to include in Get to Know You activity. So kind of listing out 10 things that you really think make up who you are. Hopefully when you brainstorm these lists, you start to kind of pull out pieces that call out to you, and you're able to structure an essay from it. So Laura, I know you started your process by brainstorming and making lists too.
Yes, I did. And I unfortunately did not have, these specific lists in mind. I kind of just did a random list. When I was brainstorming for my essay, I really had no idea. I hadn't written a lot of essays in the past, and I really had no idea what to do. So I just made a list of like anything and everything I thought I might potentially want to include, and I wish I could find it. It had all kinds of random things on it, ranging from, I really love ice cream, so I was like, maybe there's something there, to organizations I was involved in, to my future career goals, just all kinds of different things that I thought, maybe this could fit in somewhere. And then kind of what I did was just pair up 2 things together. So like I said, one of the things that I felt really strongly about was the boycott that I was doing. And so I thought, okay, well, I think that would serve as a really good anecdote, but I don't think I can talk about that for, however many 500 words or however many words it is. And so I was like, okay, maybe I could pair that with something else that was on my list, which was wanting to be more active in kind of social justice movements, and hoping that college would really help me to learn more about activism and how to do that. And so I kind of just paired them that way. But yeah, I think definitely using these type of lists, and also just in general, really saying yes to anything that you feel excited about writing about, and adding that onto your list can be really helpful. I will say also one thing that I made sure to not include in my list of potential things to write about was anything that I wasn't excited about writing about. I think in high school, I took several classes that, maybe would have sounded impressive, but I didn't really like that much. Or I was in a couple clubs that Same thing. They were fine, but I wasn't super passionate about. They didn't really say anything about who I am. So those were things that I didn't include in the list. So I think definitely when you're doing this brainstorming, just keep in mind that you should be writing about things that you care about and things that speak to who you are and to who you hope to be in the future, rather than just feeling like you need to come up with a resume of all these, professional, important things you've done. Because I know plenty of good essays start off being about favorite food or favorite TV show or lots of things that might not seem quite as impressive to start off with, but then it can really speak to who you are and really turn out to be a great essay. So I think that would be my main advice about brainstorming.
I love that. Thank you, Laura. Hopefully that wisdom helped. And again, Laura's been working in our Center for Writing and Speaking for 3 years, so she knows something or two. So hopefully this exercise really helps you get started, like I mentioned. So, kind of jot these things down, come back to them if none of them jump out at you immediately. And hopefully you're able to kind of, like Laura said, pair a couple of things together that is uniquely you, that you can write about and create an amazing college essay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope that this workshop, this presentation was helpful. I know I always learn something from Laura. Laura and I are going to hang around for just a few more minutes. If you do have any questions you want to pop in the Q&A or in the chat. But we're so glad you were here today, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.